The standard theory has been that it's an autoimmune disease. Basically what that means is that the immune system, instead of attacking a foreign substance like a bug or a virus, is attacking itself. So the theory is the immune system is attacking myelin, which is the insulation that runs around the nerves in the brain. It's just never been proven. Everyone kind of goes past the first sentence of every single article, which is the cause of MS is unknown. There's a theory that it might be autoimmune. And then off goes the paper showing whatever it shows. So when my son first had an episode in May of 2009, and he saw 3 neurologists, hospitalized at Scripps, and was told that he had this other disorder called acute disseminated encephalomyelitis. The name alone is sort of scary. But at the time I thought, wow, neurologists have made a lot of progress since I was involved in it. I was chief resident neurology at Einstein in the Bronx, but then I went right into research. So I have not paid attention to the MS literature for 25 years. So that happened. I thought, wow, we dodged the bullet. But then in December, he had another episode. The way MS is diagnosed is you got to have 2 episodes. It's just sort of the rules of the game. So now he has officially got MS. So I took him to a second opinion at UCSD, a neurologist I know well, a senior person in the department, and she confirmed the diagnosis. So I said, what causes MS? And she said, a cocktail of viruses. So it was right after that I went to the books. I went to the library, at Biomed Library at UCSD, and basically very quickly it was clear from the review articles, the textbooks, everything. The cause of MS is not known. The virus theory has not been confirmed. They've studied 22 different viruses. None of them have panned out. And the autoimmune theory has not been confirmed. So it is true that once the blood-brain barrier is broken, once the veins of the brain are broken through, then there's a big inflammatory reaction. In my mind, it's a little bit like a kid who has acne and has some whiteheads, and then wham, gets this great big huge pimple that ends up, like with myself, with scars. So yes, there is this inflammatory component, but the real question is what begins the process? What we know is the first thing that happens is the cells that make myelin become weakened. The inflammation comes later. After the myelin is weakened and falls apart, the white cells come in, attack the cleanup, that they scavenge. That's what we call an MS lesion. So the real question is, why are the cells that make myelin, they're called oligodendrocytes, why are they dying? And so it's completely unknown. Everyone knows that's the first thing. Well, now comes along this Italian researcher, Zamboni, who actually is following up on research that's been going on for 100 years. Charcot, one of the most famous names in neurology from the 1800s. Hewitt, chairman of neurology at Harvard in 1935. All along there's been this evidence that there's a venous drainage problem going on as well. But there was no way to treat it then, and the neurologist went off on the autoimmune theory, and then Zamboni in 2008 showed that there were obstructions in the veins of the neck and showed that if you open up those obstructions, patients get better. So I find that to be compelling, so compelling that it's really kind of a mystery to me why my neurology colleagues are not only showing no interest, they're actually hostile about it. It's really kind of unclear to me why. But if all this is true, if the oligodendrocytes are dying because there's poor drainage from the brain, that the brain it's swamping. Think of the New Orleans levees and backing up of poor drainage. To me, it's a compelling theory. There's now been about 2,000 patients treated. A lot of them get better. Not everyone gets better, but a lot of them get better.
So you wouldn't call this a cure?
I just don't like that term exactly. Antibiotics cure strep throat. I think that anyone who does have a venous drainage problem should have it treated. But if you've had MS for many years, that's not going to get better. Those neurons that are dead, that have been dead for years, they're not going to come back to life.
So is this a treatment of the symptoms, or is this a treatment of the disease?
I would say its goal is to prevent the disease. So Devin was treated 5 months after he was diagnosed. Most of the people who are coming to us from Canada and the rest of the country, they've had it for 20 years. So they cannot really expect to have permanent neurological damage get better. But I think it does look to me as if this could prevent the disease and stop the progression of the disease.
So it would be accurate to portray this as a prevention method to multiple sclerosis.
When people ask me if I'm an MS specialist, I say, no, I'm not an MS specialist. I'm trying to prevent MS.
So how many people have you helped? How many have you treated?
So we've tested about 70. We've treated about 60. We are collecting data. We have what's called an IRB approved study. So an IRB is the hospital group that oversees safety for the patients and also for the hospital. They're protecting themselves as well. So we have an IRB approval from Palomar Hospital System to do this study. Our focus is specifically on this method that I developed using fMRI, and things now can get very complicated. So just very briefly, fMRI is taking a movie of the brain as opposed to a snapshot of the brain. So we use it, until Devin got diagnosed, we use it for neuromarketing. We'll show people TV commercials and watch their brain reaction to the TV commercial. So we've done that quite a bit. We've been on the History Channel, Discovery Channel, Popular Science magazine, doing different things, showing that R-rated trailers are different than non-R-rated trailers. So we're using that technique to show that the brain's reaction to a stimulus does affect venous drainage. So that's what this study is. So we are studying it scientifically, and we're collecting the data. But still, you're asking kind of more anecdotally. So anecdotally, of the 60 patients, I would say there's 2 that clearly had no improvement.
But 58 had improvement?
58 either are unchanged or had improvement. And now, had improvement, what's that mean? Almost everybody has improvement in what I call the vascular symptoms. Headache, fatigue, what they call brain fog, it's kind of a vague symptom, coldness of their hands and feet. Almost everyone, that gets better. The question then is, what about neurological stuff? What about weakness on one side of your body, difficulty walking? The patients who've had it less than a few years, that seems to get better too. It's really surprising that that's true.
So increasing this blood flow, this drainage from the brain, has that drastic of an improvement?
Yes, and it's not surprising to me. What's a stroke? A stroke is a sudden blockage of the arterial system. So you think of it as water coming into your house, water going out your sinks and toilets, right? Medicine has been totally focused on the water coming in, the arterial system. If that's blocked for a few seconds, you're going to have a stroke. Or if it's blocking the heart, you're going to have a heart attack. We don't care about veins. We've never cared about veins. The only vein we ever care about is varicose veins, and that's more for cosmetic reasons. But in general, no one's cared about veins, except for this new group called interventional radiologists. What they do is they put a catheter into the vein, and they can wind that catheter up and actually get to the obstructions in the vein. This was never possible before a few years ago.
So is your work part of a clinical study?
So, in addition to my own trial that's out of Palomar Hospital, I now also have gotten what's called a national IRB. So drug companies, they don't use an individual hospital's IRB. They use one of several national IRBs, of which there's one in San Diego that I've worked with before.
What does IRB stand for?
It's the Institutional Review Board. It's the group that oversees the safety for patients for any kind of study that's being done in the hospital.
How much money do they give you for this study?
So there is no money being given. There is the big pharma. The drug companies are not going to pay for this, right? They're totally against this. The average MS drug, which is marginally effective, even when I went to the professor at UCSD, she said, you know, it might help a little bit. These drugs are $35,000 a year.